My name is Miguel Mata, first generation American, retired military veteran, and now full-time college student. In my lifetime, I've come to meet people from all walks of life, from every corner of the country and most parts of the world, and what I can tell you is, everyone has a story. On my channel, I plan to share those stories with all of you and prove that despite the differences that make each of us who we are as individuals, fundamentally, we are all the same. And I believe that through the common thread of overcoming challenges, caring for our loved ones, and helping our communities, the rest of us will realize that our world is actually much brighter than some would make us think. And now, to shed more light. This way, out. Hello everybody, welcome back to This Way Out. We're doing another Skype interview. I have a very good friend of mine on the line. Gentleman I spent some time with, another gentleman I spent some time with in North Dakota, Grand Forks, back in our KC-135 days.
Frozen Chosen.
The Frozen Chosen, that's right. Michael Thomas. I was going to say Sergeant Thomas, but I'm not sure if you're active duty anymore, to be honest.
Not active duty anymore. Got out in 16.
Yeah. You got out in 2016?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what kind of crappy friend am I? I didn't even know that.
It's all right.
we all got stuff going on, I guess. But I'm on the horn with Michael Thomas. He agreed to help out with my my This Way Out project. He's got some pretty interesting stories that I think people could learn from. Everybody has a story. That's if you don't know that by now, if you've been following this channel for however long you've been following it, and you don't know by now that my philosophy is that everybody has a story. I guess you're hearing it for the first time, but everybody has a story, and Michael Thomas is definitely one of those people. And I want to say thanks, Mike, for doing this with me.
Thanks for having me.
How you been, man? Where are you located at?
Currently, right now, I'm living in Kapolei, Hawaii. That's on the island of Oahu. So, just living in paradise.
That Hawaii life.
There you go.
The island life. Okay. Isn't that where you're from originally? Are you from Hawaii originally?
I was born and raised in Hawaii. My parents were both stationed here. My mom was Navy, my dad was Air Force. And then ended up living here for a while. My 8th grade year, we moved from Hawaii to Arkansas. That's where my mom is from. And so after that, I finished high school there and went to college.
Where'd you go to school at?
High school, North Pulaski. They shut it down now. I think they shut it down like 2 years ago. They're combining the districts. And then I went to University of Arkansas for college.
All right. What'd you major in, just out of curiosity?
Music production.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess we could share about why here in a little bit. We can share why that makes sense. But I don't know. Maybe we can get into it. Music has always been a big part of your life.
Since the day I came out the womb.
Yeah. Are you still doing music related I don't know, work nowadays?
Yes. I still write songs. I still produce for other people. Been producing my own projects, working with my cousins and my brother. And I still play in church. So whether it's drums, bass, keys, organ, so I'm always playing music on something and just building a project that I would like to give out to the world, not necessarily to be famous. It's more so telling my story through music to help somebody else who's feeling the same way, who uses music to kind of cure what they have going on.
Yeah, excellent. That sounds a lot like what this thing that I've got going on right now.
Yes.
This Way Out. It sounds like you got kind of the same feeling, like there's some healing that's required in the world.
Absolutely.
I kind of feel that same way. Got this thing on the fast track already. Usually it takes a little while, You said your dad was in the Navy?
Dad was Air Force. Mom was Navy.
Okay, so it was the other way around. Are your folks still together?
Yep, they are still in Arkansas. My dad retired out of Arkansas after 22 years. and then he's been working postal. He got out in 2002. So when he retires from postal, he'll be completely done working. I think he's got like 2 years left. So he'll get his disability from the military, his retirement check from the military, retirement from postal, and then like 2 years he'll be able to collect Social Security too. So I just told
Wow.
him, hey, go ahead and move to Hawaii, man. You know, we got
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. What about your mom? What's she up to now?
Mom has been working at Walmart ever since she got out the Navy, so she's actually getting ready to retire from there. And
Wow.
yeah, and their benefits and everything is actually pretty good when you look at everything after it's said and done. So wherever my dad got stationed at, you know, there was a Walmart there, so she was
Right.
able to continue her work.
Okay. Right on. I've got plenty of family that work for Walmart. Matter of fact, I've got an uncle who's been working for Walmart seems like forever, and they're trying to
Yeah,
push him out the door, but he's like, and then what am I gonna do? You
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But
My
he's been
parents was
working there
just set on
forever.
retiring.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool. Now, you mentioned that in the project that you got going on, you got a brother. You got any other brothers or sisters?
I have one biological brother that was born from the same mom. Family for me was real big growing up because we all kind of grew up around each other. So
Mm,
I have three cousins from my aunt, my mom's sister, and we all lived in the same house. We all grew up together. We went to the same school. We all fought together. We did everything together. So those are my brothers. So they had to kind
mm,
of grow up to get to that level, but like eat, sleep together. You know, those are my
yeah.
brothers. Up the street from us, my dad. There was another master sergeant that my dad served with, and he had two daughters. So when we were growing up, they deployed together. They went to PSAP, and then
That would
uh,
be Prince Sultan Air Base.
yeah. So when he left, he was like, "Hey, you know, it's just my girls at home. Do you think your boys could step in and kind of do some of the man stuff around the house for him?" And my dad was like, "Absolutely, they would love to." I was like, so
Yeah,
when he left,
yeah.
he sent my mom an email and was like, "Hey, Michael and Alex need to go up the street and cut the grass at the Rogers house." And we were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay." So then we ended up meeting Shantae, Marquita, Danae, and they are the sisters that I consider them biological family. Like they can have the shirt off my back. I'm flying my sister out. She got straight A's on her report card. So I told her if she ever got straight A's on her report card, it only took her 3 years to do it, but she got it done. I told her I'd fly her to Hawaii. She could stay with me for the summer. Those are my girls.
That's cool, man. That's cool, man. You got a good support system there.
Yes, sir.
Tight knit group. That's good. Gosh, man, that's a blessing. I'm sure
Absolutely.
you probably know that better than most. That's a blessing.
Yes.
Well, mom was in the service. Dad was in the service. You and I met in the service. Was
Yep.
that was their time in the military? Was that well? Hold on just a minute. I'm missing something because you were going to Arkansas, and then for some reason you joined the military.
Yep.
What was
So
what? Why'd you join the military if you were already going to school?
So my freshman year of college went a lot like a lot of people's freshman year of college. I was home. Like I didn't have no bedtime. I didn't have no curfew. I didn't have to do my homework if I didn't want to. So I was like, man, this is freedom. I always had my parents over my head. They were always pushing me in the right direction to do the right thing.
Mhm.
And when I finally got some freedom, I absolutely lost my mind. I was pledging Omega Sci-Fi. I was going to all the cute parties. My brother, an older brother, he kind of mentored me when we were in high school. When I first moved to Arkansas, he played football, and
Mhm.
so I tried out for
For
the football
Arkansas?
team. Yeah, Farad
Gotcha.
Jackson. Yep. I wanted to try out for the team, but I was going to wait a year, and so he was taking me to the parties, but then he was still like leaving the parties early and going to sleep, making sure he get his education. I wasn't
Right.
doing that. So I ended up like skipping classes. My English class, matter of fact, it was a remedial English class. Basically, my grades weren't high enough to get into the school, but I got accepted, so they had to give me an English class to make up for it. All I had to do was show up and watch Harry Potter. The class was at like 7:55 in the morning, and I would not go. That's how dumb I was. I had a free A and I didn't take it. And then like the classes that I was taking, my music courses, I was failing those. Either I wasn't going or not practicing or whatever. I didn't take advantage of the gift that I had. I didn't take advantage of the blessing that had been dropped in my lap because I wasn't even qualified to go to the school. You know, you have your SATs, your ACTs. In order to get to University of Arkansas, you had to have a 20. I scored a 17 and a 19. And then when I went and tried out, the band director was so impressed with my ability to play without any training. I've never had lessons. I've never had any. He was like, "You're such a raw talent that I can take you and make you better than what you already are." And he was like, based on that alone, he was like, "I will accept you into the school. Don't worry about it." And I was like, and so like God made a way for me to get there every step of the way, and I blew it. So when I got out, I lost my scholarship. I ended up not being able to go back. My dad gave me the option. He said, you can either pay your way through school, get a job, go back to college, pay your way through school, or you join the military. Those are your two options, because what you're not going to do is option number three, stay at home with me and then drive your mom up a wall, because me and her were at each other's necks every day.
At that time.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I ended up joining the military.
It's funny, like in that storyline that you just gave, you gave like probably two of the most heard storylines in the military, I think. Right?
Yep.
I think you would agree. Why'd you join the military? Well, I was going to school, but
Yep.
but right,
Yep.
but dot dot dot. And
Yep.
the other one was, well, my parents said I'm a grown ass man now.
Exactly.
They said I can't stay on their couch. I kind of did the same thing with mine. You know what I mean? I kind of wonder whether I did or not. I might have pushed a little bit too hard, but it was like, look, if you can't find something to do, I would never push the military on you, right? Knowing what I know about, the military life, I would never push it on you. But if you're just sitting around on the sofa, that's your life. I'll bring the recruiter down here myself. So there they are.
Yeah.
Sign them up.
That part,
But
that
that,
part
I
I
mean,
agree with though. That part I
huh?
agree with. My dad told me just do 4 years. He wasn't
Right,
like get in and then stay in for your whole life. He was like do
right,
4 years, get in, learn a trade, and then get out. Because you
right,
get your GI Bill, you can go back to school. You'll be more mature now, ready to handle it, not trying to pledge to be a Q dog, and
right.
you'll be more mature and you'll have a skill set. So
Yeah.
being if I was to be a bomb tech or even aircraft electricians in Hawaii,
Mm-hmm.
and next year's 2020. So electricians in Hawaii, foremen will be making $80 an hour.
Ooh.
That's to me is ridiculous. But that's the
Yeah.
trade that he was talking about, and that's kind of what I
Yeah.
push now to um, not my kids, but I used to work at Youth Challenge Academy. And
Mm-hmm.
so the kids that come through there, I'd be like, look, everybody's telling you to go to college. If you want to go to college, go to college. But
Mm-hmm.
there's trade schools out there, especially live in Hawaii. Construction is life. I'm a
Right.
bomb. I can't find work as a bomb tech. There's
Right.
there's no work for bombs in Hawaii. But if you do anything construction wise, they will start you out $33 an hour to sit there and
Yeah.
hold a sign and then say, hey,
Right.
don't pass, and then turn that sign around and say,
Yeah.
go now, $33 an hour. So
Yeah.
there's different options out there, and I'm glad that he told me about trades.
Yeah. Okay, so you take your daddy's advice and join the Air Force.
I did.
This is actually a pretty interesting part of the story because um, your path in the military is it's uncommon
Yes.
because you joined. Um, well, go ahead. Tell us about your a little bit about your military career. Let's give us the old 411 there.
So I actually tried to join the army, and
Oh, did you?
yep. So the Air Force and the recruiting office are like across the hallway from each other. So when my
Uh
dad
huh.
was taking me down to the recruiter, I walked in through the front door. I came in first. Army was on my left. Air Force was on my right. I opened the Army door. My dad grabbed me by the back of my collar. He pulled me out and then pushed me into the recruiter's office. He was like, "You'll thank me later, son." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay, whatever." I what I associated Army with was combat, and that's what I wanted. versus Air Force, which was not combat because I wasn't going to be a pilot. I knew nothing about the military. I knew that my dad used to work intelligence, and then he did field operations and stuff like that, and then he cross trained to actually be a crew chief. And so he was working on the B-1s and is it Ellsworth, South Dakota,
Yeah.
and then B-2s at Whiteman, and then
Uh-huh.
I don't know what they had. I think they had fighters in England. If you ever remember Chicksands Air Force Base, or
That
Graf
place is probably,
Chicksands, it's
that
been
probably,
close.
yeah, this place is probably
We
closed.
left when close, and
Uh-huh.
then he was there for the C-130s at Little Rock, and he was actually on the team that brought in the J models when they first came in.
Oh,
So,
30J.
so outside of those things, I know I learned those things about him later. So I'm sitting in the Air Force recruiter's office. Staff Sergeant Roach is my recruiter, and she was just like, "So what do you want to do?" I said, I looked at my dad, and then I turned. I was like, "I don't want to sit behind a desk." And then
Mhm.
she was like, "Okay, cool." So the very first video she showed me was pararescue, and then I saw them swimming and all that. And I'm a strong swimmer. To this day, I can go out in the ocean right now, swim for my life, not panic, float, get back to the beach if I have to. I saw how much swimming they were doing, and I said no. And then she showed me. She did show me one job in aircraft maintenance. I don't remember what it was. I just was like, maintenance. No, I don't want to work with tools. And then she showed me security forces. I said yes. My dad said no. And then EOD popped up, and I was like, hands down, that's what I'm doing. I was like, if I sign any paperwork today, that's what I'm doing. And my
So
dad just kind of said,
EOD is explore explosive. You go. What's EOD stand for?
explosive ordnance disposal.
Right.
So that's anything that
To
supposed
hurt
to go
locker people.
and doesn't. Yeah, I watched Hurt Locker, and you'll hear a lot of EOD techs say it was very Hollywood. There's a
Yeah.
lot of things that are down there people would have done differently, but
Right.
they got the science part of it right. Like when the guy is in the suit and then his body pressurizes and then blood comes out everywhere. Like the
Yeah.
science behind explosives is very in depth, which is crazy because I failed chemistry and I failed physics when I was in high school. So the very things that I'm supposed to be good at, I wasn't good at until they taught me and I learned. So yeah, that's what I signed up for. Normally, you're in the DEP program for a while. I was in the DEP program for like 10 days, so it was easy. I was like, I signed the contracts and all that, and then she called me the next day and was like, "Hey, you can leave next week. You'll be in Lackland by Wednesday." I was like, "Got it. I'm ready." I told my dad. He was like, "What?" My mom was all excited about getting me out of the house. So at least that's what she showed. Mom's just got to play hard in person, but they're real softies. Left for basic, did my time in basic. Went to EOD school. I passed my time in Lackland at the Medina complex. It's basically a preliminary. And then I went to Herbert Field, Florida, is where the school is at, but we were all living on Eglin. And I made it all the way up to what we call Air 2, and I had a death in the family. So I never really recovered. Like the very next day, I failed my test. So what they do in EOD school is you test every day. And from the very first day you go in, you take notes. And then you're not allowed to take your notes home because the information you're given is classified as top secret.
Mm-hmm.
So what your day consists of is waking up in the morning, going to the galley because it's a Navy school, and then you eat breakfast, you go to the classroom, and you study. At 7 a.m. on the dot, the cadre will come in, put a test on your desk, and you either pass or you fail, sink or swim right there. If you sink, you go and you see the captain, Navy captain. He'll ask you why you failed and decide right there if you're going to stay in EOD, if you're leaving. And
Mm-hmm.
then after that, you pretty much get the gist of it. You have to stay awake in class, take all the notes, make sure that you're able to read your notes, and then study your notes for the next day, pass the test.
I think you said something very important there. Make sure you're able to read your notes.
Yes, because if you don't sleep while you're writing, like don't put your head down while you're writing and
Right?
everything, because you'll wake up to the cadre standing over your desk, like, hey, go ahead and stand up in the back of the class.
I
And
I actually have an old. I don't know what happened to it, but during one of our moves, um, I came by a spiral from my tech school days, and you can see where I'd been taking notes, and it's like letters, 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 line.
lines, yeah.
A
It's
flat
exactly what it
line.
looks like. I was like, you're supposed to, I know the difference between a low explosive and a high explosive, and I don't know because I fell asleep.
Yeah, you fall asleep. It's really it's wild, man. Wild.
Yeah, man.
Okay, so anyway, you don't want to put your head down, cadre. We
Yeah,
tell you to
so
stand up.
doing that, I ended up making it through all the way up to Air 2, and I had a death in the family, so I ended up dropping on request. And they were telling me not to drop on request. You know, it's hard to come back. It's hard to do all this. So I stayed, but then I started failing tests. So you can only fail one block once. If you fail that block twice, it's an automatic wash. If you fail blocks next to each other, then they'll probably consider washing you. So
Mhm.
I failed one block. I washed back. I tested again. I passed. I went to the next block. I passed. I went to the block after that. And then that was Air 2. I failed that block and then washed back. I failed that block again. And when I explained the death in the family and everything, they're like, okay, well, we think you need to get a good head on your shoulders, and then try and retrain and come back. So I ended up talking to the master sergeant, who was my what's the ropes military training leader, MTLs, and
Yeah.
they actually were able to get me to where it was like, okay, hey, you have to go now. Whenever you're ready to come back, and we'll just start you over. And that's what ended up happening. I actually ended up being able to go back to school and go through the school, graduate, and then that's how I got my dual AFSC.
Because when you got out of EOD, they put you in aircraft maintenance, the electrician school.
Everybody who washes from EOD goes to maintenance, and it's because bombs require maintenance. Everything is either
Right.
electrical, it works off a mechanical device. When you're working with the mercury, if it's activated in that soil, working with the electrical
Hmm.
part of the balls and stuff. So bombs is basically maintenance. They always tell you it has a guidance system, a propulsion system, the warhead, the package, and that's what an airplane is. You got
Hmm.
pilots who are your guidance system. You have engines, that's your propulsion system, and then whatever's in the fuselage is your warhead, whether you're transporting people, transporting materials. So that's why everybody who watches EOD goes into maintenance.
Interesting. Interesting. But you became an electrician, electrical environmental. Woo
There you
woo E and
go.
E.
Gang, 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 gang.
That's when you showed up to North Dakota, right? You had just gotten out of EOD school.
Yep, I got out of EOD school. I went to Lackland, not Lackland, Shepherd, and that's where I did my training. And then I ended up going to North Dakota, and nobody knew I was coming. It was kind of scary. So
Yeah.
it was in January 22nd, 2006. It was -26 when I landed on the ramp. And that's what I remember about North Dakota.
Right.
Uh, I I was calling the base because I got in at like 12 o'clock at night. I was calling the base. Nobody was answering the phone. I didn't have a sponsor and none of
Right.
this shit. So I'm trying, like, how am I supposed to get from point A to point B?
I do
And so,
seem to remember that. Like you just kind of showed up out of nowhere.
yeah, and
It's
I
like,
don't know. The only
where
one
did
who
that come
knew
from?
that I was going to be coming was Ebitapo. You remember him, Lou?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he was actually in 7 level school when I was going through tech school. And
All right.
so he was like, did anybody get Grand Forks? And I raised my hand. He was like, man, welcome to the Frozen Chosen. He was like, bring cold weather gear. And if you don't get any, you'll get issued some. Don't worry. And so I was
Yeah.
like, man. But I didn't have his phone number or nothing. But Pickett and I were in tech school at the same time. He was graduating right as I got to E&E school. And so
Uh-huh.
his number was the only number I had. And so I ended up calling him that night. And he came. Took him like an hour to get. You know how far the airport is from the base, like five
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah.
But it took him an hour to get there because it's January. And
Right.
he came and he picked me up. I slept in his room that night, and I just kind of showed up to the unit. Like you said, everybody was running around trying to figure out where this guy came from. I'm just like,
Yeah.
dang, man, he was
You
supposed
just
to
ninja
be
smoked your way in like.
here. Not even supposed to be here. This is a mistake.
That was. I mean, I always appreciated your energy, man. You always had good energy. You always seemed. Yeah, you seemed like a pretty positive guy. I honestly, I didn't. I knew honestly, I knew very little about your EOD experience at the time. But then again, I was kind of one of those guys like whoever shows up, I just need for you to produce units, as
That's it.
as they used to say, right? Just need for you to produce units.
Yes.
But but you did your thing, man. And I was always happy to work with you. I think we Michael Thomas, Michael
Like
Thomas.
I'm saying, I
Yeah,
never got that big heart.
we
I
both
let
kind
it
of
go.
we all both kind of found like a middle ground in music. You know, I'm not as into it as you are. You definitely got a level of expertise that far exceeds my any of my knowledge, but that's I always appreciated that we could kind of we kind of found that was our middle ground, you know, music and our appreciation for it. That was always good. So you were there. I remember you being an athlete too. Like you played for the football team there, and you. I can't
Base
remember if you guys won
basketball.
a base championship or not. Yeah, basketball.
Yeah, we traveled to Canada and we won up there. We did a couple other bases, but that football was definitely our maintenance football team was the truth.
Yeah, the truth.
Yeah,
So but you left before I did, and you PCS. Where'd you PCS to?
I left and went to South Carolina, Shaw Air Force Base.
Okay, and it was it in Shaw that you re-entered EOD?
Yep. So I got to Shaw. They started getting me souped up on F-16s. My cross train window came open, and I was able to go. And because I had dual AFSC after I completed EOD school, then it became a okay, cool. They basically kept my bases to where EOD and maintenance were in the same place,
Mm.
and so that way, if I needed to get pulled for either section, then I was able to go.
So that's where to me it's cool, but it also kind of created a problem on your end. It created kind of some stress and anxiety, if you will, on your end because you weren't able to. Can you hear that screaming?
I don't hear nothing until you say it, and it's like right there. As soon as you hear it, that's
Okay,
when I heard it. It's not
yeah,
bothering me. I
my
was going
bad,
to
dude.
ask you, can you hear my nephew? Because that's what I would assumed it was.
Yeah, I could hear him, but only momentarily. But
Nah.
anyway, my son gets on a he gets on a tear, a pretty good tear, and he just gets excited.
That's
It's an
fine.
excited scream. But anyway, your dual AFSC, something that's I think is rather rare. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody, honestly, in my entire career
I,
who was
I can
dual
count on one
AFSC
hand.
that did it the way you did it, which was like you said, you could show up to a base and get pulled in either direction to
Yep.
do either specialty. And these specialties are completely um yeah, these specialties are completely separate from each other. Like they don't exist in the same location, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So um and that created a problem. How did that what kind of problems would that create?
Just people and peers mostly thinking of the favoritism. If I got excused from doing something for maintenance because I was going to go train with EOD, um, everybody else was kind of like, oh, well, he thinks he's special because he could miss out on the commander's call or coming in on a Saturday and dress blues and all this other jazz, whether it's for a DUI or something. And it wasn't so much about me missing those things or skating, as we call it in maintenance. It
Mm-hmm.
was more so I'm going to go and continue my training. I'm training every day of the week where you guys are taking days off. I have to use that time to go and train with another job.
Yeah.
So I kind of took the punches as they came. They did kind of ruin my image on a mid-level tier. I really like my younger guys. They thought it was cool, and then some of the old heads that had they didn't dual AFSC. They cross-trained and had separate jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of understood. But then being part of the E4 mafia at that time, and if a senior airman had to do somebody else's work, they kind of got upset, or if they felt like they were being overworked. And because Shaw is a fighter base, you already know those hours that you're pulling in, um, not by choice, just because of the mission.
Yeah. So you were kind of unfairly, I guess, I don't think it's an exaggeration or too much of a presumption to say that you might have been developing unfairly developing this bad reputation among your peers. Um, And I guess that'd be kind of tough
Yeah.
to deal with, you know.
The 55th wasn't a bad team. Um, they're very much tight knit group. So what it was people didn't know they could count on me. It's not like North Dakota where we deployed 6, 7 guys at a time, and then we
Hmm.
would meet up with McDill, we'd meet up with McConnell, and then we
Hmm.
work together. You deployed as an entire unit at Shaw.
Yeah.
So when they said, "Hey, we're sending 16 birds out, we're taking the 55th," and
Right.
so everybody in the 55th went, and then I remember like the 77th would come and replace us, and we'd go back home, not the 77th, the 79th. They would come back home and their entire building would be closed off. Everything is darked out. None of their jets are here. And
Right.
so I thought that was cool because you deployed as a unit. So the same guys
Right.
you're at home training with are the same guys that you're going down range with. And that to me
Right.
was their biggest problem. It was like, we got this guy who comes to work, but sometimes he's not at work. And then when we get down range, if he comes to work, is he sometimes not going to be at work? Like, how is this going to work? So I can
Right.
kind of
Right.
I see where they're coming from, and that's why I didn't really harp on it too much because I understood
Okay.
what they were feeling.
Well, good for you, man. Good for you. I mean, you adapt and overcome, right? Adapt and
Absolutely.
overcome. In those tough times, whenever you're having to balance the dual AFSCs, and there was tension in the unit because you had that dual AFC. You talked about the guys would behave a certain way. Um, how did you handle that? Did you just ignore it, or did you address it? Um, and if you did, how did you manage that?
Um, a lot of it was talking to friends at the time. I only had a couple guys that I could call on and just like let it all out with. And
Hmm.
so at the end of the day, they did tell me kind of, hey, you gotta ignore it because you know what you're capable of doing, you know what you have to do, you know what's required of you. So
Hmm.
if some people are kind of looking down upon you because you're
Hmm.
missing out on stuff, but I'm missing out on stuff and going and training, not
Hmm.
going and just going home and relaxing or doing things that they
Right.
want to do. I'm going and continuing to be an active part of the military as a warfighter.
Hmm.
So they really had to just kind of help me keep my head down and focus on what my objective was. I got discouraged for a little bit, for like a month of being there. And then when I first got to Shaw, I got to Shaw in July, and then we went TDY in August. And that was like my crash course on F-16s because I didn't know nothing about it. And because I
Hmm.
told you before, we all leave as a unit. So when we go TDY, then we go TDY as a unit. And I was just sitting there. I didn't know anything, so I was this 5 level who wasn't any good at my aircraft, my job, and that was personal to me. So
Yeah.
I'm out there with everybody. I was actually when we went TDY, I would work doubles, and
Yeah.
so because it wasn't necessarily 8 hour shift, you were really on like a 10 and 10, and so
Hmm.
I would come out there. I'd work my shift, the day shift. We'd launch the aircraft, recover them. If we have maintenance, we do it, and then the swing shift was really where the work got done. So I
Hmm.
would stay over when instead of tapping out and then going home, I would stay over and ask the staff sergeant at the time, hey, can you, show me what's going on? And then they would let me work until I was pretty much tired, and then they'd send me home, or I'd go inside and sleep or something. But
Hmm.
for me, I felt like I owed them that because I needed to show that I was proficient and not dead weight on this team.
Right.
Um, that was the biggest overcome for me was doing that.
Yeah. Maintainers can be dramatic. They can be They can be a bunch of divas. There's some divas in that
That
in
that
that
I
field.
know. That I know.
Yeah. Well, anyway, but I mean, let me tell you something, man. I appreciate that. I, I don't know. I hope that somebody recognized the work that you were putting in and at least gave you a pat on the back while you were at least trying to be a productive member of the team and trying to become, putting in the extra hours, trying to become proficient. I hope somebody acknowledged that, and if they didn't, shame on them. And if they did, good. And I want to say personally, say thanks for doing your thing, man. Because if there's anything that's missing, all right, a little bit of a soapbox here, but not much. there's anything that's missing in maintenance now, are people, no joke, wrench turners and people who want to be good at turning wrenches. So to hear that you were putting in that kind of work to be good at at that, to be a productive member of the team, I'd say thanks, dude. Kick it ass.
No
Good for you.
worries, man.
Good for you. I'll tell you what, I also had experience in what you're talking about because I got I don't know, five or six different airframes under my belt. And I think there's no worse feeling, to me at least, when you just show up to a base, you don't have any knowledge of the airframe, and man walks in, right? Expediter, the guy that runs the show, he walks in,
Yeah.
he looks through you like you're not even there to the
Yes.
guy behind you, and he's like, "Hey, I need two, blah, blah, whatever." It's like, oh, that stings. It's like,
Yeah.
man,
Because you want to be that guy. You want him
you
to
want
come
to be
in
the
and be
man,
like,
yeah.
hey, where's Thomas?
Woo.
Hey, Thomas, I need you on the flight line right now. It's on fire, and only you have water. So I need you to
Yeah,
get out there and do what you do. Roger that, sir. I'm all over it. That's
yeah.
what I wanted. That's not how it went down on F-16.
On it's still vivid in my head. This, yeah, because you didn't have your stuff together at the time. I understand though. I understand. And you're past it. You're past it now. So
Yes.
yeah. I was just gonna share a story. It's like I remember it vividly, like it was yesterday, and it wasn't yesterday. It was summer of 2014. The last time I remember that happening to me, when our expediter walked in right here at C-17s. I didn't know nothing about no C-17s here, and the expediter opened up the door. He looked at me, and then he looked behind me and goes, "Hey, I need for you to get it." And I was like, oh,
The
that's stung.
dagger.
That's stung. I'm a scumbag again. But anyway, you got through it, man, and you made, for lack of a better word, you made shit happen. So good for you. You did deploy with aircraft maintenance. Did you ever deploy with EOD?
I deployed twice with EOD. I ended up getting attached with their team when we were at Bagram. They had what they call the Crimson Task Force Crimson, and it's basically the inside the base defense team. So if somebody was to rush the gate or if they were doing anything of the sort, trying to harm the base of Bagram, then they're the team. They're kind of like security forces, but they're beefed up real big. And
Mm-hmm.
so they're running around in buggies and stuff. And EOD has their own missions to be able to go out, but because when you deploy to Bagram, EOD is pretty big as a unit, and so
Mm-hmm.
you got guys who did off-base route clearance missions, and then you had the guys who dealt with the 107s and the 80 mics that they were constantly sending over the fence. And if you had to render those safe, then that was the mission that you took
You're
on.
talking about munitions. You're talking
Yeah,
about munitions.
yes, 107 millimeter rocket RPG basically, and then the 80 millimeter mortar. So those were the common rounds that they would send over the fence, and
And
those. Go ahead.
you handled those things personally?
Yeah, because most of the time, if they come over the fence and they don't detonate, then the enemy they don't. So if you run up and you hear it all the time, we actually had a case where these guys were driving a vehicle and a 107 bounced on the road and skidded into a truck and it entered the person's body, but it didn't detonate. Being on base, it was safer, but those were the things that we dealt with. I did do a deployment where I worked with some guys and we did route clearance, and the deployment where we were closing down FOBs when Obama was pulling people out and we were shutting down bases. We had a rash where the Black Hawks were landing, and it wasn't a cleared zone because we were going to different places, and Black Hawks were getting blown up from landing on IEDs or other things. So they put like a small, real rash thrown together team. It was like, hey, if the Army is out there in the FOBs, you have them go out there and mine sweep before they come out so that we can land the helicopter. They ended up taking contact by the time they were going out to sweep the area, and it became unsafe for them to leave the area because the enemy knew that we were shutting bases down. So they would focus on those bases and kind of keep them pinned in. So then we bring the AC-130s out there. That's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. The AC-130s going out there and just splashing all over the mountain. And then we ended up putting EOD guys on the
So
Blackhawks
when
with
you
like the
talk about
PJs.
splashing, you're talking about lighting that sucker up.
Yes, sir. If you get to see that through your night vision goggles, man, it's just you just
Yeah.
see the green background, but these really bright green, high yellow lights, and they're just bouncing off the ground. And you see anything that's hot metal just turns into this glorious, sparkling. It was a cool thing to watch, man.
Because
And it's just
for anybody who might be watching who's not familiar, AC-130's got a big gun on it.
yes, sir, 105 millimeter
C-130s
howitzer cannon.
yeah, C-130s are a very versatile airframe. They do a lot of jobs. And that
Yes.
particular one, the AC-130, the attack version of the C-130 has a big cannon on it. What kind of gun does it have?
That's the 105 millimeter howitzer.
Yeah, makes
So they
big.
have that. I've seen the 25 millimeter, the minigun, and then I think they shoot the 40 mics from the side cannon as well. So 25, 40, and the 105.
Okay.
So those are beautiful.
What happens next?
2016, I get out. Over the course of this whole time that we've been talking, um, my current wife, Anastasia, she's been my best friend since we were kids. So everything that has happened up to this point, I've told her. So when I signed up for the military, I called her and I told her, and she hated me. And then the night before I left for basic, I called her. I told her, "Hey, I love you. You know, will you marry me?" I asked Stacy to marry me 3 times, a total of 4 times. She told me no 3 times. So before I left for basic, I called her and asked her to marry me. She was still in high school, so that was dumb on my part. Um, I completed basic training. I was in EOD school, and I told her once I graduated, "Hey, I'll come and get you. I'll marry you, and then we'll just do this thing." She said no. So moved all the way up. 2012, I had got divorced from my son's mom, and I never told Stacy the one thing that I should have told her. So I actually went to go and visit her, and told her then that I got divorced. I was like, "Hey, this is everything that's going on. I got divorced way back when. I'm here now. I'm trying to talk. Let's get married." Basically, I stumbled over a lot of words, and she said no. And so I actually went back home. I ended up getting out of the military, and I moved to Hawaii. After I got out, my last tour was in 2015. A lot of stuff went down, and I ended up getting injured, ended up getting out. And they said, "We'll send you wherever you want to go." And so for years, I asked to go to Hawaii. Like when I graduated school, they said, "Hey, where you want to go? Fill out your dream sheet." I put Hickam on there, and I came to North Dakota. So I did a tour in Korea, and I had orders to Hickam 2 weeks before I went to get ready to leave. I got switched up and sent to Little Rock. And so I was like, dang. So I got to Little Rock. I did my time there. Once I got out of the military, they were like, "Hey, where do you want to go? We'll send you wherever you want." I said, "Send me to Hickam." And so they did. So ended up coming here. My brother was actually stationed on Hickam at the time. So I stayed with him and lived there. And Stacy was here. I ended up talking to her. And about a year later, we ended up getting married. We only dated for like 6 months. So we knew enough about each other to know that this is what we
Yeah.
wanted. She was looking
Yeah.
for the perfect circumstances, the perfect storm. And I was like, "It's never going to be perfect. Just say yes already." And so she did. And we got married in 2017, April 1st, 2017. And it's been glorious ever since, living in
Yeah.
Hawaii.
That's cool, dude. You're pretty happy. I can see
Oh,
you
yeah,
glowing.
man.
You're
Yeah.
glowing.
That's because I'm bald now.
Oh,
That's not. But
that's
yeah,
cool,
man,
man.
that has always been the dream. She's always been the one for me. I uh, I couldn't see myself doing this life with anybody else, and that was the entire goal the whole time was to marry my actual best friend. I know it sounds cliche, but people say it all the time. I'm marrying my best friend, and they've known each other three months. I'm married to my best friend, and we've known each other 23 years. Like our friendship is longer than most marriages of our time. So that's why when I say I married my best friend, I actually mean that.
Good for you, man. I'm happy for you.
Shit.
Super happy for you, dude. Um, not to poke the bear here any, but you tried to work it out with someone else, like you got married previously before this marriage
Yeah,
became a
so
thing.
and I was in North Dakota. I was actually married to my son's mom, and that was it. Didn't work. We were growing up. We were young, and
Yeah.
now you can my screaming in the back now.
Yeah.
We were we were young,
Right.
and
Yeah.
as we got older, we wanted separate things.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
it wasn't even a matter of not knowing who they were at the time. We knew who each other was. I was very focused on sports at the time. I was playing. Actually, I was going to try out for the University of North Dakota and play
Mhm.
football for them, but ended up just playing on a traveling team in semi-professional football. But I prioritized those things.
Mhm.
So there was times when she wanted to do certain things, and I'm just like, I'm not down to go and do those things. And it wasn't because I didn't want to do those things. I just didn't want to do them with her. And
Mhm.
then she was off trying to do a whole bunch of other stuff, and we just wanted different things.
Right.
So after Isaiah was born, we kind of tried. I was like, hey, we were the let's try and make it work for the kids,
Right.
and it wasn't happening.
Right.
So
Chalk that one up to youth and inexperience, huh?
that's exactly what it was, and that's
Yeah.
like we have a good relationship. I still get to see my son whenever I want. I can call him whenever I want, and I can get him for the summers. I can get him for the holidays. If I was ever, he lives in DC now, so if I ever travel to DC and I was like, hey, let me see my son, she'd be like, okay, here, please take him. And
Mhm.
so that's
I like
the
it. Oh.
relationship.
Yeah, please. I'm out of here. That's cool though. That's good. All right, so you got projects going on right now. Tell us a little bit about the projects you got going on now.
Currently working on a project for the wife. I've been writing since 2002. I wrote my first song in 2002, and it was for her. And I just kind of like I threw some stuff together on paper, and I had actually lost that song for a really long time. We were cleaning up and cleaning out my area, putting stuff outside, and I found my book from back in 2002, and I opened it up, man. And all these songs, the old wrinkled up pages, look like somebody spilled coffee all over it, but it's really just the color of the paper.
Hmm.
Um, that I found that stuff. So I finally decided to sit down. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a project for the wife. I was gonna think of something in Hawaiian to call it because we're both from here. This is where we started. This is where we came back to. This is where we got married. This is where we live. So, Addiction is the name of the album, and whether I'm gonna put it in English or put it in Hawaiian, I don't know yet. But
In
that's
Hawaiian, goodness gracious.
yeah, and I think I can put it out somewhere because we have lots of local friends,
Yeah,
and a few of them are very fluent in Hawaiian still.
I'd
So
be
we're like, hey,
curious. I'd be
say
curious.
that.
That's a tough language.
But yes, like we used to memorize songs, but we didn't know what we were saying in English. So it's like they
Right.
just hang the words. It's a whole bunch of vowels on the paper, and then
Yeah,
you just
yeah,
sit, make sense of it.
yeah.
Um,
Cool.
but
It's cool.
doing that project and then just a personal project, everything that I've ever written from 2002 to now, getting all that old stuff out of the way so that I'm able to write new stuff, kind of close that chapter of my life and then
Hmm.
move to the next project. And okay, this is me. This is who I am now. You
Yeah,
know,
neat, man.
that's how I've grown from then until now.
Cool, man. Now, but you've also got a YouTube project you started with your wife.
Yes, the Mike and Stay show. We think that we are funny. That's what it boils um, we are the is we're petty with each other. My wife is very laid back, and I'm extremely petty about every single thing, every aspect of my life.
Right.
Because even if it sucks, I don't want it to suck. I want it to be good. I want to have a good time. Which you had mentioned earlier, I always had a positive, bubbly attitude, and that was my dad is still into me. Is like in the military, everything's not going to be sunshine, rainbows, unicorns, and butterflies. It's not going to happen. Except that I got sent to Grand Forks, North Dakota. I'm a Hawaiian child in the coldest place on earth, and so it's not going to work out. You remember Cabanas, the engine
Yes,
troop? So me and
Matthews.
him
Yeah,
still talk. We still talk on a regular basis,
yeah,
man. And
yeah.
so I remember when he first got there because he's short and he couldn't open up the door to get into the KC 135. And so he had to take a chalk out from under the nose and then put it under there, open the door, and then he could get the ladder down. But I remember that because we were there roughly at the same time, and he was from the Big Island. So I was like,
Right.
man, why do they do this to us? And then
Yeah.
after I left North Dakota, we started seeing other guys that were local boys getting sent to North Dakota. We were like, that's not fair, bro. But where was I? I'm sorry, I digressed. The project. Um,
Yeah, the
we
Mike
think
Stay show.
I'm petty, and she eventually becomes petty, and my daughter now is extremely petty. So they just everyday life with us is like I had the Snapchat up, so everyday life is like everybody in my bed in the morning. And so my nephew that you heard running around earlier, he's hilarious. And my daughter will come and she's upset that she doesn't get to sleep in the bed with mom anymore because I sleep in the bed with mom now. And then my sister lives with us. She just finished up her medical stuff. I think she's a CNA right now, and then she's going to go and be a part of the medical field. My mother-in-law lives with us. She's got 20 plus years in the medical field, and she's worked. So we're like, hey, we want your life to be a little bit easier. Instead of being out on your own and having your own house, why don't you come and pack it in here with us? And so having all these people in the house, sometimes it stresses me out. I'm easily irritated, but I would not have it any other way. I am like on a mission to I want all my family to be in Hawaii. I want them to be able to experience what we experience on a regular basis. And I want them to see that big families can work out. I don't like sharing per se, because growing up, just me and my brother, we had our own, and it was separate. So then when they first all moved in with us, it was difficult for me to be like, you can't be there. That's my space. You can't come up here. This is my area. I had to let go of all of that. And being married to Stacy has shown me that, she's been with this her whole life. She's always had her sisters in the house. There's her, she's got two younger sisters and a younger brother. She's the oldest. So they've always been in the same space. They've always shared it. They're used to this. Their mom has always taken care of them, and she's always worked a job or two, and she's always managed to take care of them. And they're so used to being in each other's space. It was a culture shock for me. Right. That, okay, for me, I'm used to, oh, that's my keyboard. So there. And sometimes I felt like a child because I keep saying mine, 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 mine. When I got married now, and it's ours, ours, ours. And
Yeah.
now I got my family living in the rest of the house, and it's like not only is it ours, but it's theirs too. And so it was a very humbling experience to be in the house with a whole bunch of people that are family. I love them to life. I will move hell, heaven, and earth for them. And they had to show me how to humble myself. Right. On the bright side, everything is hilarious because everybody in the house is hilarious, and we just want to kind of show that to everybody else. You can live in Hawaii and have a good time.
I'm probably going to cut a lot of the stuff out, but it's all good stuff.
Yeah, I digress.
Because there's still one more thing I almost forgot. I almost forgot to cover, which is the survival training. You started a survival training school in Hawaii. What's that all about?
So I actually work for Koa Tactical Solutions. They are a group of guys. The CEO was a naval intelligence officer. He worked with the SEAL teams. The CMO used to work for Canadian politicians as a bodyguard. And we have another guy. He's a partner investor. He was a Green Beret. And so, because of my time with EOD, I was able to kind of talk with them and kind of work my way in as a member of the company, as he asked me to be a teacher for them. So he wanted them to teach the training. So I'm not actually it's not my school.
You didn't found the school.
No, I'm the director of training operations. So anything that has to deal with active shooter, home invasion training, self-defense training, women's self-defense training. I specialize in Krav Maga, is a discipline that was developed in Israel. That is what I teach. I know other combative styles, but Krav Maga is what I teach. And, excuse me, weapons familiarization, how to move tactically from cover, how to breach a room, how to clear said room. So those are the services that I offer to civilians because for me, I have the training to know how to deal with myself, how to protect my family, and a crazy situation. But you can watch the news any time of the day and see a mass shooter has
Mhm.
walked into the school and did this. And when you go back, if you go and actually research the mass shooters or anything, look at the details on how the people were able to get killed. Some of them are going to be victims of ground zero, and that is somebody standing in the middle of a crowded area. They open their jacket, pull out a weapon, and then start shooting. That's the ground zero victims. Then people who are able to run, they're able to get away. They're able to hide inside of a classroom, lock that door, but then they're on the other side of the door. There's not a single door that is made in a school unless they are built for active shooters that will stop a bullet. So that's why we tell you get from behind the door, get along the wall, or if you're able to secure that door and lock it, push stuff in front of it and lock the door. People
Mhm.
don't understand that active shooters are trying to do the most damage in a small amount of time because they know the cops are coming. They know
Right.
somebody's coming to stop them. So how many people can they kill in this time? But what people don't do in their mode of panic, I'm gonna run into this room and then I'm gonna go hide in this closet. But
Mhm.
not once did they run into that room, close the door behind them, lock the door, go into the closet, put something between them, hide in that corner of that closet. Because if a door is open, it's not the Sandy Hook shooting, uh, the Parkland shooting in Florida, people were closing doors, not locking them. So all he would do is go to the door, open the door, shoot everybody in the classroom
Yeah.
to the next door. The people who were in the classroom that survived were the ones that locked the doors. He went to the door, tried to open it, it didn't open, so he moved
Move
to the
on to the
next
next
room.
one. Right. Yeah.
So what we do is give people the training set to be able to think while under pressure, EOD, how to be able to disarm a bomb while you're being shot at,
Mhm.
being in the field. When how do you continue with the mission? Our CEO being an intelligence operator, can you work on that computer while the rest of the Navy SEALs are trying to protect you and shooting back at the enemy? You better
Mhm.
be able to work under pressure, getting the information off that computer. Our Green Beret was placed in, I can't say the unit. He's If you go to Afghanistan and Iraq and say his name in their language, everybody knows who he is. And
Mhm.
so he was the type of guy to be dressed in regular clothes and then walk down the street and make people disappear. So
Mhm.
are you able to do that under the pressure of being in the country, possibly by yourself, and still complete your mission? That's the type of training that we're giving to civilians. Because if you don't have the gun, Hawaii, we don't have a concealed carry law. So you're not allowed to carry your weapon on you while you're out and about. Meanwhile, criminals don't care about that. What are they going
Right.
to do? They're going to the middle of the area. They know that nobody else is going to be able to shoot them. Our Honolulu Police Department, they're very good. They're great at what they do. They are limited by law. They are limited by resources, and they are limited by personnel. They don't have enough people to cover a shift at night. So
Mhm.
when something goes wrong, it's going to take them between 6 and 12 minutes to get there. 6 minutes if they're like down the street from you, and 12 minutes if they had to come from another city to get there.
Mhm.
So a lot of can happen. The average active shooter lasts 13 minutes. So if it's going to take you 12 minutes to get there, how much damage has already been done? So that's why we're teaching civilians how to be able to protect themselves. We're working with the elite teams. We've had uh, Okinawa, the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit. They came actually to our facility and trained. They built a whole bunch of stuff. They blew it up. They went on our field, shot stuff, and blew stuff up. They had a great time. That is the stuff that we want to do as a company, is provide this training for people, civilians, so that they're able to protect themselves at home or abroad, having situational awareness, whether you're walking down the street. We want to work with HPD. They asked me to join the police force a long time ago, and most recently, like a few months ago, because they're like, we need more people like you with more ideas like you on the force. And I was like, let's say you got 5,000 people in HPD, then I become 5,001 versus me starting my own company or working with
Mhm.
KTS and developing a culture of people, the millions of people that are on this island, uh, develop a culture of a million people who want to know better. Now you've immediately mitigated a lot of what criminals are capable of doing. I'm
Mhm.
starting my security company by the end of the year. And if I put 5,000 people together, as well as teaching a million people how to be more situationally aware of their surroundings, and then we work hand in hand with HPD. I am becoming a force multiplier instead of
Right.
being that 5,001. So
Yes.
that is the big thing that we push. We want civilians to be capable of protecting themselves, and we want to be able to work with HPD to kind of take the minor stuff off their hands, let them focus on major crimes.
I'm really glad that we did this because, you know, it just shows that I don't know. It's the bad guys aren't gonna win. You know, there's people that are pushing back,
Yes.
and I know that there's like a reluctance when it comes to firearms and when it comes to what, you know, I don't know. You know, I guess I can understand it if you've never been around it and you don't know and
Yes.
you're not familiar with things like self-defense and firearms, familiarization and that sort of stuff. It can be intimidating,
Yes.
but I think you would agree, and this is probably something that you cover in your classes, that, you know, educating yourself really does remove
Fear.
uh, a lot of that fear, right? And
Yeah. It's the whole
I
knowledge is power thing.
yeah. So um, I appreciate you being a part of my being a part of this project,
No worries, man. I
taking this time
appreciate the invite.
to talk and I'll try to piece together this thing as good as I can to do your story some justice.
I know
But
you'll work it out. The rest of your projects are really good. So
hey, thanks, dude. You've been through a lot, buddy. You've got tons of experience. I know you're gonna do great things in the future, and it sounds like you're gonna do great things in various different areas. So I wish you luck. I wish you luck in all of your endeavors.
I mean, take care of yourself, brother.
Yeah, it was good to talk to you. Good to catch up too, man. Good to catch up. All right, so this has been another episode of This Way Out. My guest today was Michael Thomas. Appreciate you sitting with us and talking to us, Mike. If you like this video and you want to see future videos, be sure to subscribe and like and hit the old notification bell so you can see future episodes. Comment and share as well. You can look us up or look me up, look this project up on Facebook at thiswo.light and Instagram at thiswo.light. Twitter, thiswo_light, and visit my website, thiswo-light. I'm gonna change that. I gotta fix that. I gotta figure out something different. There's a lot of, well, when I say thiswo, it's THISWO. But thiswo-light.com for the website where you can find blogs and feature articles, as well as the interviews that I record. So, thanks for tuning in. Thanks again, Mike. Appreciate you taking the time. And God bless.